Hello and welcome to an instructional video on how to use the Pacific Megascopes Research Alliance protocols and how to access all of the information you need in order to volunteer for the Western Screech Owl surveys. If you're interested in learning more about the surveys, please visit our website, pacificmegascopes.org, and we have a blog. We should have a new blog coming up soon, but this is the origins and other information on Western Screech owls that we currently know, a state of the knowledge of Western Screech owls, and how that kind of developed over the last decade to 50 years or so. For accessing information on how to do surveys, you will need to go to the Survey Methods Point Count Methods section. And all of the information here allows you to complete your own Western Screech Owl surveys. So this is the recording that you will be playing to Western Screech Owls to try to solicit a response to Western Screech Owls is here. The speaker testing for getting the accurate decibel level of your speaker, which should be 70 to 75 decibels. Getting and understanding your data sheets, and then the links to the survey protocol, the datasheet, and the datasheet definitions. So let's go through those now. Once you've downloaded those, you should have your protocol, which has everything I'll be talking about now. This is the most up-to-date version, version 4. You should have your definitions sheet. It's a lot of information, but it will make sense once you see the datasheet. It's all lots of shortcuts and helpful shorthands to get the right information down when you need to. These are the data sheets. I like to print them out double-sided so that I have 4 per paper. When you're on a survey, you want to do around 10 points per survey. This is 17 minutes per each point, and each point is separated by 800 meters. Now, if you're going out and 10 points is a long time, it is a long time. If it's too long, then feel free to split this over nights or to do a lower number of surveys, and someone else can follow up on a subsequent night to do a few more. The information at the top is for the project for the entire survey. So this is your date for that survey night that you're going to be doing. This is the region or the transect that you're going to be visiting. So if I was visiting let's say we have a Tofino Creek transect, I would write Tofino Creek down here, and then the number that is associated with that transect. And we'll learn about that in our, on the map when I look at it later, when I show you later. Visit number, if this is the first time somebody's been to this point count location this year, then you write down 1. If it's the second time, then you write down 2. And if it's the third time, you write down 3. And we're trying to get at least 3 visits for each transect. Protocol and project, usually you would just write down PMRA, but you can also write just about anything else down here as well. If you are using this protocol for some other project of your own, then you can do that. Write this information here and make sure it links up to another set of protocols so that it's analyzable by somebody in the future. The station is the station number. So this is all now for your point count, your individual point count along a larger transect. I like to fill out your transect information right here on the first page and then staple the rest of the pages together so that I know what it is associated with, so I don't have to worry about losing it. And then I don't have to write it down again later. Also, I'll write down the observers' full names at the beginning of the transect at the bottom of the sheet, and then just the first sheet. And then if it's stapled to the other sheets, then you know exactly who the codes are referring to throughout the survey. So this is the station, the first station that you're going to be visiting. Let's say it's station 1. It could be station 10. It could be any other station along that transect. Time start in your 24-hour clock. So that's the time that you started your playback recording in the protocol. Or it's the time that you've started your clock and your playback recording. So this is minute 0, second 0 of your 17-minute survey. Then you have your temperature, degrees Celsius. I like to bring a thermometer, but a car thermometer works well. If you have neither, then just write down what the projected temperature is for that night at that location. Wind in the Beaufort scale, and that information is here. So if you want to know what the wind level is, it's pretty quick to learn, but there's descriptions: calm, light air, light breeze, and then it gives you little definitions for this. If you're on the water, that's a little bit less helpful, but chances are if you're already doing a survey by the boat, then you know what the Beaufort scale is. Precipitation from 0 to 5, again, the definitions are on here. From here, so if it's a 4 or a 5, we really don't want people to do surveys. 3, ideal to not be doing surveys in, but 4 or 5, it's a bit too much to be doing surveys. But let's say you've done transect 9 points and then it starts to pour when you're halfway through your last point, so you write that information down, that's fine. Cloud cover, percentage of sky that's covered by the clouds, and then whether the moon is visible, and this is to birds basically. So if there's a bird at the top of the tree, but you're at the bottom of the tree and the moon is blocked by that tree for you, it would not be blocked by the tree for the bird at the top of the tree. So if it's blocked by any sort of ground objects like trees, then you want to put it as visible. Yes, it is visible. If it is not blocked by the trees, it's blocked by, let's say, a mountain or the horizon or thick clouds, you can't see the moon at all, then the moon is not visible. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Moonlight. This is the same as the other light scale. So this other light refers to sunlight. Say you're doing an evening survey and you're doing it after sunset. They start a half hour after sunset. Usually there's enough ambient light around still that you can see pretty well. So that's going to be a 4 or 5 level of light. But otherwise, this other light will refer to anthropogenic light, so other light sources like street light. Now, if you want to know both of these, so other light and moonlight scale is the light level measure. From 0, pitch black, can't see anything, all the way up to bright enough to see color and to read writing. This is the scale, and it's a little bit subjective, but just follow it for an anthropogenic light. And if there's both, then again, just do your best. Noise from 1 to 4, just below the moonlight level on the other page. If it's a noise of 4, that we would rather that somebody moves over. Speak nearby, move down the road. If you're going more than 40 or 50 meters, then make a new point. Send me the GPS point for the new location. Car count, how many cars have passed you during the survey? Just keep a tally, 1, 10, 22, and then visual scan. This is just to remind the surveyor to turn on their headlamp or a flashlight and then scan the trees around you after the survey. And this is just to look for eye shine in case there's an owl that's flown in. Hopefully down the road we'll be doing this a little bit more officially, but that's kind of what we have right now. 3-letter codes for all of your observers. So for mine it's JCK. You should have a 3-letter code, whatever works for you, write it down and we'll make sure that it's unique to you. Now, this is the survey observation section, so that you see during the survey, and this is owls. Anything else that you're interested in or that you're surveying for, let's say grouse, want to write that down, feel free to write it in here. But this is here for owls. Now, if you get too many owls, then you can go ahead and add a few more sections. If you don't get anything, just leave this all blank. So let's go through an example to use this all as an example. First of all, you have your different sections. So from 0 to 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, 3 to 7, and this is what the protocol for playback is right underneath. So from 0 to 2, you have a silent listening minute period. Silent listening period, pardon me. And from 2 to 3, you have a playback session. From 3 to 7 is silent listening, and then from minute 7 to 8 is a playback. 8 to 12, silent. 12 to 13 is a playback, and then the recording that you have downloaded should have, the newest version will have this entire session recorded. So you press go at 0 and it will stop at minute 17 after that last silence. Have my watch at the same time so I can, but you can have a timer on your phone or just track the time on the recording itself. While you're doing the survey, you will note any owls that you hear or see during the hear something. Western check what the sex is. So male, M, female, F, unknown, U, a young bird, a juvenile, and that will be J. Female singing. That is relative to you. What direction is the bird when you first detect it? Then minute. And that is minute. Typo here on and it will be corrected. It's the from minute 0 to first digit of that minute is. So within the first minute, it will say 0:30 or 0:55 seconds. If that's when it's detected, you write down 0. Okay. After the entire survey is done, scanning around, because that's fair to the survey. This detected that bird initially. Correction. So distance to the bird. Within the minute or before the playback started. So it would be, let's say, minute, or the exact time would be so it was 200 meters, 220. Your playback, and let's say it's still singing, same location, and write down 4. I think it's come. And you estimate it's about 20. Way we're tracking exactly how far away the individual is. Survey. Doesn't much matter what direction it moves or anything like that, but if it comes closer, a good idea of sort of how aggressive these individuals can be. Now, we have a female who's also singing. Maybe she started singing at 3:30 during the playback. So this would be in here. You would write down WESO, F, direction, maybe she's north and W, and then minute, she started at 3:30, so you write down 3. And then where would that fall? Between 3 and 7. So let's see how far away. Maybe she was a lot closer, and she was 20. Well, that falls within 1. So maybe you're right next to a nest, and so you would write down 1. And now you're going to track these individuals through the rest of the singing period as they get closer or further away. Maybe there's a barred owl that sings, you write down that bird. You continue to track them through the period. Now, this is your vocal activity, and this is both whether or not it's vocalizing. So if you heard it or you saw it, if it's not vocalizing and you detected it by seeing it, you would write down S. But if it is vocalizing and you detected it by hearing it, you would write down H. However, let's say these two birds are counter singing and you're hearing the female do a high pitch toot 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 and the male doing a toot 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 right back at her, and they're counter singing each other. Then that would be a courtship, and so you want to write down C. If they get really close and they start getting really excited, that's also courtship behaviors. Any kind of counter singing between a higher pitched owl and a lower pitched owl, that is C for courtship. And then finally, let's say you've wound up a bird, or you can tell there's a barred owl has come in silently and is sitting above your car and is looking at you expectantly, and it's ready to attack you or any other WESO that's around, something like that. And you feel like that bird is, by bringing in more birds, you're potentially putting them in danger. In that case, we would, you want to stop your survey, just write down the last minute that you played playback. And that, let's say we did playback 2 and 3, playback 7 and 8. And then we didn't do this playback, so you would write down 7 and 8. So you would write down minute 7. Now, this helps us to track whether or not it was stopped and when it was stopped so that we can incorporate that into the analyses. If you stop your playback, make sure you continue listening for the rest of the period. And so that's why I like, for all the way through the end of the 17 minutes, that's why I like to have a watch going. So I don't have to worry about pausing the playback in case I decide to stop it. Now, if you hear a barred owl, or if you hear a screech owl or any other owl, we ask that you don't stop the playback unless you are uncomfortable with it. Some of the problems with historical surveys have been that as soon as somebody hears an owl, they've stopped the playback, and that means that if you hear a barred owl and you stop the playback, you're never going to get western screech owls co-occurring with barred owls. Now, that's a problem for analysis because we have then interpreted that data to mean that western screech owls are being entirely caused by barred owl. Their declines are being entirely caused by barred owls because they do not overlap. Now, we don't know that for sure because our surveys have shown the pattern that we would expect from the methods that we've used. So we're asking people to continue playing their surveys almost no matter what, unless you feel very uncomfortable about the situation you've put a WESO in, the screech owl in, or behavior of a barred owl, or if there's a cougar walking up behind you and you're scared, and so you stop the playback, get in the car, any of those things, make comments about why you did it, and please let us know when you stopped. Now, if you've left the station early, do let us know that you've left the station early and that you couldn't complete the silent listening period through the rest of the survey as well. So that's it. That's it for the observation notes. I guess we should, if you have any notes on that observation, anything interesting about that owl, song types, anything like that, maybe there's a nest or something. And then any station notes about maybe the source of the sound that is the background noise, or maybe there was something interesting going on that you were excited about. Feel free to write it all down here. I like to print one of these off and have them with me. Please do that. You can bring the protocol with you or have a read through the protocol. It's all up to date. And happy to see people doing these surveys using our protocol because we think it's really wonderful to make sure everything is standardized. So again, this is where you can get all of the data sheets. Let's go to signing up. So we'll give you a link to the drive once you've requested to volunteer. And this is for volunteers, not for folks who are just using our protocols, because these are specific transects. So if you're just using this for another project, feel free to move on. But if you're using this to help out with the Western Screech Owl surveys for Pacific megascopes, then please do watch this part. Once you've done and you have all of your data available, please photograph it, scan it, enter it in here. We want to make sure that that data has any chance to get lost. Maps and choosing transects. This is our main folder, and we'll go back to that in a sec. Transect points. If you have I'll have all transect points down here in KML or in your GPS or to your phone or whatever you're using to net. Base version. So transect information and codes is the first one that pops up. And this gives you the codes for each transect. So this is each one has a transect ID that is MKVI, which means Megascops Kennicodi, which is the Latin name for screech owl, or Western screech owl, and Vancouver Island. So let's say you're doing the Discovery Islands, that would be MKDI, or for the South Coast, MKSC. That'd be Vancouver, Metro Vancouver area, Pemberton, Squamish. Then if you have a T, that means transect U, applicable to people putting out ARUs. For most people, if you're volunteering for these surveys, just using a T for transect, just if you're doing a playback survey. And then the number. So we spoke about Tofino Creek earlier, so that's T03. And you can write that at the top of your survey sheet. Also helpful for just knowing what survey are within these transect. 001, 002, 003, 0, and that is the complete name of that individual point. Creek dash 001 dash 0010, sorry, dash 010 for 10, and dash 004. How we're using accessibility. So have a four-wheel drive or not. For example, the Tofino Creek one I've been using as an example here is not accessible this year. So inaccessible because of slide. There was washed out in a couple places. That road, and it doesn't require to drive, but it's on a gravel road. So lots of information here to access those. Point count, transect, map. So this is where you're going to be doing most of your planning to see exactly where the points are. You can download the points off this map directly. Here is our Edinburgh Mountain transect, and the red points are just extra points. Let's say you're unable to get up past Big Lonely Doug here or into Eden Grove itself, then you can only get to point 4, so you would add another 3 points to the end here. 1, 2, 3, if you're planning on doing a 10-point survey. So you get rid of these 3 and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So make sure you label them with these labels. So you would still label this one with 4, and you would label this one with 13. But that way this gives you a little bit of a buffer room if you want to get all 10 surveys done. A few extra points down here. This is our San Juan River. You can see MKVI T02, 001, 002, 003, and then of course a couple of extra points if you want to. The San Juan Ridge transects, there's a number up here. I think that well, we know that there's screeches in some of these locations up here. But if you're planning on going, I will send you those points. Get help up there. We do know it's basically this video. Your name, planet Earth, don't mind. Road access vehicle, oh, pardon me. Bolt fell out of the bottom of my chair. Road access vehicles, so whether or not you can get to remote areas. So Tanya's kindly put in here, paved ideally, but can access truck. I have access to a 4x4 truck and a boat, so that's helpful. All of this stuff is good to know. And then your transects are down here. So the golden ones are the island transects, and then the mainland transects or the south coast transects are in green. And you can sign up for a transect along next to your name and next to the date that corresponds. So March 16th, Wednesday, let's say you want to do a transect, you'd write your name in here. You'd write your road, the vehicle you have access to, where you're based if you want to, don't need to. And then whether or not you have a playback speaker that works for playback, because we do need to present playback to these birds to do the survey. And then once you've finished, then you can write in the exclamation point. So for example, we were unable to get into Shone Lake here, so we did end up doing this. Just make sure you track this. What we'll do, just put an exclamation point next to it. And that tells us that those transects have been completed. So that gives you lots of information or gives us lots of information to be able to track exactly what's been completed, what hasn't been completed, where people went, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and we're hoping that people can get out before, the end of April, ideally before mid-April, because there's lots of screech owl activity going on in March and April. And if you have any questions, do feel free to give me an email anytime, pacificmegascopes@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. So thanks again for all your help, and I look forward to seeing some of you in the field and talking with all of you in the near future.